It's Nick. Welcome back to my channel. Okay, in this video today, we are going to be talking about how to make your home look more cohesive. So this is a question that I get a lot on this channel. Maybe even one of the top questions that I get. How do I make it feel like my whole space belongs together, that all my different design elements just flow and come together? Which is why I'm going to be doing my best to explain what I think makes a room look really cohesive. So let's get started with my tips. Let's go. Okay, so first tip, and it's just kind of just the tip that's going to carry throughout the entire video, is really understanding what is rhythm and repetition and how it is used in design to make a space feel like everything belongs together. So what is rhythm and repetition? Well, I'll start with repetition because it's really easy to understand because we all know what it means. It's repeating different design elements over and over into a space. So you might see stools that are repeated over and over again in a design, especially in something like a commercial design. You might see colors that are repeated throughout the space, things that are repeated over and over and over again. The flow is what's called rhythm. It's what sort of it should feel like someone is, taking your eyeball by the hand, and it's a gross visual, but basically walking you through the space because it's dispersing it throughout the different areas of the home. So again, we're gonna touch on this throughout this video, but I want you to really keep that in mind. Rhythm is repeating these elements, but throughout the space so that it kind of visually ties the room together, and it makes it gives it visual interest because it draws the eye around all the different areas of the room, side to side, up and down. Let's talk about how you can use rhythm and repetition to make your home feel more cohesive. And the first one I touched on because I think it's the easiest for people to really understand, and that is colors, repeating colors throughout the space. So let me show you this image here of this room, and I'm gonna hold it a little bit longer than I usually do on this channel because I want to really analyze this room and understand it. So in this room here, okay, beautiful space, really interesting, but what are some of the things that you notice when it comes to color? So first of all, yes, we've got some neutrals, that's very interesting. We've got some black, we've got some cream, some grays, some whites, those things are definitely tying it together, sure. But if you really look, I'm seeing a lot of blue and orange. So let's look at the orange. You've got the oranges outside on the flowers, you've got it in the two pillows, you've got it in the little oranges that of course are sitting on the table, you've got orange on the trim of the throw, and of course you've obviously got it in the poof, as well as in that beautiful, stunning, gorgeous artwork that they've put behind the couch. So notice that they've repeated the orange throughout the space, but in all these different areas of the room, and it's kind of, the rhythm is really what's driving it all together and making it feel really cohesive because your eye naturally wanders around the space and really takes in those repeating colors. Also blue, you've got blue in the pot outside, you've also got it in the art, you've also got it in the pillows, and then you've also obviously got it in this sofa that is anchoring this entire space. You also see it in the books. All of that is intentional, you guys. This did not happen by accident. This blue and orange in this space really helps you kind of walk around the room visually and really see the repetition to tie it all together, and so everything feels like it belongs. And they used color really effectively in this room, in my opinion, to be able to sort of wander around the room and see all those cohesive elements drawn together. So you may like that room, you may not like that room, that's honestly up to you, that's your opinion, but in the end, you can't deny that there was an effective use of color to create a cohesive space. Color is kind of the easiest way to show how repetition works, but there's other elements that we're going to discuss in this video that you can do that to really sort of set off a space and tie it all together. Okay, so we know that color is a great way to make a space feel really cohesive and it doesn't kind of look like a hodgepodge hot mess. But what are some other ways that you can do it? Well, another way is texture. So texture is that really tactile component in your different design elements. So this could be something like leather, this can be something like boucle, which, I don't care for, but that's my personal opinion. It still adds texture to a space, right? Wood adds a lot of texture. It's just got, especially like rough, worn woods, it gives a different texture than really smooth wood, right? Like it really depends on the different elements, but they all add different degrees of texture. So texture is a great way to make your space feel cohesive as well. So let's look at this room and I can show you what I mean. So in this room here, obviously, okay, so we've talked about color. So again, we're seeing effective uses of color. You've got some pink and you've got some yellow and a lot of these neutrals. But look how you can see that they've used rattan in this in like a really interesting way. These textures are similar. They might not be necessarily the exact, but you can see that that chair, as well as the rug, as well as that lamp really sort of have a very similar textural element to them, and they sort of bring each other together. Things like leather and wood might not necessarily be the same, but they offer kind of a similar textural component, and therefore when they're displayed in sort of different areas of the room, they can really help tie it together. So here you've got these different wood elements. Notice that, yes, again, we're obviously seeing color, but notice that the wood really ties itself well together. Wood in different parts of the space sort of help the eye wander around the living room, and you can sort of see all these different pieces unified and brought together through texture. Okay, so we've got color, we've got texture, we have those two ways of making a space feel really cohesive. What is another way to make your space feel cohesive? That would be metallics, using your metals. So this, yes, okay, let me get it out of the way. Yes, you can mix metals. I'll probably do a video on mixing metals sometime soon. It's on the content calendar. Calm down. I hear you in the comments. I know you want me to talk about it. But let's talk about repeating metals throughout a space, whether that is in a lighting fixture, whether that's maybe a detail on your, maybe the legs of your table or a chair. It could be drawer pulls, it could be drawer handles, it could be faucets, all the different ways that you can sort of combine metals to make a space feel really cohesive. So here is a really good example of a bathroom. So restaurant design, but you know what? We can still borrow from it for our own home. Check out how the gold is what I believe really ties this room together. So obviously you've got this gorgeous green wallpaper, which is mixed beautifully with these amazing doors. But look at all these interesting brushed gold pieces that are tying the room together. You've got wall sconces. You look like you've got a pendant. You've also got the detailing on the doors. And of course, you've got these gorgeous brass faucets right there in the middle of the sink in the center of this bathroom. And notice that you've got the gold or the brass finish on these mirrors in the corner. So you can see all these different metallic elements brought together to really make the whole space feel cohesive. This is a really good example, in my view, of metallics being used to sort of combine a space and make it feel cohesive. So your eye is basically wandering around this bathroom thinking how gorgeous, because your eye is naturally drawn to the similarity and the repetition in the space. Bathrooms, by the way, are one of the easiest ways to do this. Metallics in bathrooms just make sense because of course, you're probably gonna have rope hooks, you're gonna have paper holders, you're gonna have a faucet, you're going to maybe have a soap pump, you're going to have a towel ring or a towel bar, right? You've got all these different metallic pieces all happening in the space, maybe the bathtub, shower, whatever. So by matching all your accessories together in sort of one place using the same metal creates a really cohesive bathroom that is beautiful. Now, yes, you can mix, as I mentioned earlier, that's a little bit more advanced, but you can see here that repetition can be used to bring the room together so that it looks super cohesive. Okay, so next up, let's talk repeating shape and pattern. So shapes and patterns can be a really great way, again, to make a space feel more cohesive. Like in this room right here, where we've got the roundness, obviously, of the different side chairs and these stools. So even just look over on the right side here, you've got this table. Notice that even the details of the round edges on that table. And of course, you've got the bowl that's right there. Guys, again, I'm gonna say this is not an accident. This is all very intentional. Obviously, this stuff gets staged for photographs. I'm not necessarily sure that everybody lives like this every single day, but you can definitely see why this room is beautiful because the shapes are being repeated over and over again. I love this picture because I think this one really shows off the repetition. This looks like it's a gym locker room. Fun fact, by the way, is that those stools, I actually have one of those stools on my patio. They're beautiful from CB2. Anyway, but you can see that they are repeating over and over again. It makes it feel really organized to the eye. It makes it feel really intentional, and it sort of helps you guide you through the space. So I think that's really neat when you actually literally repeat the same element over and over. So obviously that works really well because in something like a gym, because you can just basically put the same stool over and over. Now imagine if you used a bunch of different stools. It would be interesting, but it would probably feel a little bit more eclectic, and maybe it wouldn't look as cohesive as it does in this room because they repeated the elements. It looks like everything belongs together. Okay, so next up, we've got color, we've got texture, we've got metals, we've also got repeating different shapes and patterns. But what about design style? You've heard me talk about design style a lot. I've got videos on design styles. You guys love those those videos. I plan on doing more of them. But repeating or kind of echoing the same design style throughout different rooms or different sort of elements in your space is really helpful to make it feel really put together and feel really sort of consistent throughout the space. So what you want to do here is you want to find out what your signature style is, and I've got videos on that subject, but you want to find your own signature style. It might be a mix of different design styles, it might be one design style or several or whatever, but coming up with your own sort of signature style that you really like, and then using that style consistently throughout the space is going to be something that unifies the space so that it feels sort of really consistent. Here I'm showing you photos of this sort of Japandi looking space, which is really beautiful, but you can definitely see that although not every room looks the exact same, these are not all copy paste kind of builder grade jobs that we see. This is something that is well designed, but it is something where they consistently use that same design style, just in different ways. So consistently, it's kind of brought together because they're using the same woods, they're maybe using kind of the same shapes, they're using kind of everything is sort of in that Japandi style, but it's done in every room in a slightly different way. So the space feels interesting, but it also feels like it really belongs together, and it feels consistent, and it doesn't feel disjointed. It doesn't feel like, you know, you're walking into one room and you're like, oh, this bathroom is really coastal, and then all of a sudden you leave. You know, I talked about this in last week's video, where you've got the kitchen looking like a farm, and then you've got the bathroom looking like a beach. It just doesn't really work. You want to take something that is a nod to a certain design style and just weave that throughout the entire space so it's consistent. So your color scheme, your color palette is consistent, yes, all those things I just talked about, but so is your design style as well. Okay, so my last tip for you all, and this was sort of kind of touched on throughout this video, but I think it's really, really important to really just highlight and go back to that first tip about rhythm, and that is to spread these things out throughout the space. So when I talked about repeating colors and textures, and all those things are true, and all those different things work to create a really cohesive space, but I want you to really be mindful of putting them in physically putting them in different areas of the home. So it's not exactly like you're just like, here's 3 yellow vases and I'm just gonna stick them in the corner and then nothing else in the room is yellow. That's not what we're talking about here. It's talking about when you're kind of having a little bit sense of style and you're starting to really put the space together. Think of, okay, I'm gonna maybe put that yellow vase over here, but maybe I'm gonna put 2 yellow pillows over here. And then maybe I'm gonna do a yellow side chair over here. And maybe there's some yellow in this art. And maybe there's a little trace of a little bit of yellow in the, okay, maybe it's getting too yellow, but you catch my drift, right? It's like, how can you take these different pieces that I talked about and spread them out around the room so that it really brings the whole space together? And all it'll take is taking some of those textures, taking some of those colors, that design style, and starting to weave it into a really consistent way throughout the space, not again, piled in one corner. It's gonna make your space feel a lot more cohesive, a lot more interesting. It won't feel boring, and it'll most of all feel like everything belongs together, which is what I know so many of you want to do. I hope you all enjoyed this video. This one was more on the educational side rather than just me being like fun and sassy. So don't worry, there's more sassy stuff coming. But if you enjoyed this video, I think you'd like my video on design styles and mixing design styles. I'm gonna link to those videos and you can take a look at those. I think you'll enjoy those, and I will see you all in the next video. Thanks, bye.